Hi everybody, Jeff from Predator Academy. We're going to be doing this segment on educated coyotes. You've all heard everybody talk about educated coyotes, but we're going to delve into the nitty-gritty meat and potatoes of what an educated coyote is, how we can prevent educating them, and all of the things that go into the psychology of the coyote. This is coming from the background of 27 years as a police canine handler, 25 years running a large police canine training facility, and 10 plus years of doing predator hunting. So you're going to want to stay tuned to get that competitive edge on your hunting. All right, everybody. You are obviously here because you're looking for information on how to stack up more coyotes, how to get that edge to make your hunting more productive. So this is going to be a little bit longer video. It's going to be a little more detailed than the usual meat and potatoes video. And it's going to go into a little bit of coyote psychology. So we're going to refer to coyotes as dogs. We'll get that out of the way up front. But it's going to get it may get a little confusing because I want to give a quick background on where I come from and what I bring to the table for understanding coyote behavior. So I have recently retired as a captain with a local city police department as a canine handler. I spent 25 of my 27 years handling a canine. I also have 25 years of owning the largest dog training facility in Southwest Ohio, and we also offer police canine training. So, why does this matter? If we are going to refer to dog training in quite a bit of this. We're going to refer to training methods and techniques that we use in training house pets, working dogs, game recovery dogs, scent dogs. You're going to hear me talk a lot about drug dogs and bomb dogs when we talk about odor and classic and operant conditioning. So, why does dog training matter, or why do we need to look at why we're doing what we do when we train a working dog for predator hunting? Well, think about it like this. When we're predator hunting, we are trying to manipulate the coyote's behavior to come to us. When we are working let's just say a police dog, a tracking dog. Police dogs, we generally hunt for the bad guy. So we are using that dog's sense of sight, smell, and hearing, their keen senses, to locate the bad guy. In predator hunting, all we're doing is flipping the script, or all I'm doing in teaching this is flipping the script and using what we know about training dogs to trick the coyote into coming to us, being cognizant of their sense of smell, hearing, and sight. So all we're doing is flipping the script. Why does that matter for educated coyotes? So first, let's clear up what is an educated coyote and how do they get there. So dogs learn through conditioning. So a lot of times we'll have a dog that is, for instance, afraid of a slick floor. Everything with a dog is either a pet dog is either environmental or genetic. If it's genetic, it's predisposed to be there, it's in their DNA, and we're probably not going to fix it or make that behavior go away. We're just going to, we could polish it, change it a little bit, but it's genetic. It's not going to go away. If it's environmental, it's something that happened. We made it. We can generally fix it, make it go away if it's an unwanted behavior. So back to the dog that's afraid of the slick floor. Why is he afraid of a slick floor? He probably came in, slid across it, slammed into the refrigerator, cut his foot open, and he has an aversion to that. So every time he sees a slick floor, he refers back to when he got hurt. Everybody has had that drink of something that they've got sick from, and when you smell it, you just immediately kick back to something bad. Mine is Patron Silver. If I smell Patron, I immediately get sick to my stomach, and I revert back to years ago when I got deathly sick from it. Food poisoning, same thing. You smell that food, you remember back when you got really sick. So that is an aversion. So when a coyote is educated, they have paired something with that negative aversion. The simplest way to probably break it down is you shoot at a coyote and you miss. He has an aversion to whatever he associated with directly before that shot. The shot was the negative. They know that's bad. So whatever happened right before that, they can associate a location, a sound, a smell, any of their senses that they bring in that outside information, they're going to associate with that aversion or that bad event, right? So the simplest way to probably break it down is every time coyotes hear a rabbit squeal and they get shot at and you miss, coyote runs off. They're never coming back to that location, and they're not going to come back to that rabbit squealing. They know something bad happened. So on a simplistic scope, what we don't want is any coyote leaving that stand with a bad impression. We really want them leaving dead in the back of our truck. So how do we prevent coyotes from being educated? This can go down a rabbit hole, but everybody has to cut their teeth on something. You have to learn. We've all learned, from myself included, we've all learned from our mistakes. I hunt nearly full time, and I have made about every mistake in predator hunting you can make, but I've learned from it, and that's what's developed the skills that I have today. Taking those skills with my dog training skills is what's kind of allowed me to create a niche in coyote calling and manipulating the behavior. Now, stand setup, all of those things go into the whole picture. But all we're talking about right now is educated coyotes. So how do we prevent educated coyotes? And then the next phase of this is, how are we going to work with educated coyotes? How are we going to call those educated coyotes in? And that gets a little more difficult. So in summary, we don't want anything bad happening when those coyotes come in. So let me put a scenario before you and see what you think. You have and this is based off of an event that happened that I learned from. You have a block of timber. Let's say this block of timber is about 30 acres, surrounded on all four sides by open crop field, and you know there 100% there's coyotes in that block of timber. So you set up properly, you're setting up downwind, you're placing your call off to an angle where you can create your shooting lane, you create your funnel, your odor, your scent cone is not near your shooting arena, everything is set up right. And coyotes start rolling out. In my case, 13 coyotes rolled out of this block of timber all at once. So I'm by myself. Well, I have my wife with me who's scanning. That stand, she was not shooting. She was simply running a scanner. And I have the only rifle. So 13 coyotes come rolling out, spaced fairly far apart, but all 13 were within a 200-yard distance, and those I had set up about 400 yards off of the tree line. What should you do when that happens? What I did is I let all of them roll right. They came in, I turned the call off, they sensed something wasn't right, and they all flowed right back into the woods, which is exactly what I wanted to happen. Now, that may sound a little funny and say, why didn't you bag dump on them? Why didn't you try to get as many as you could? My concern is I run a bolt gun, At that time, I was only comfortable shooting about 250 yards. And I knew once it happened, I hadn't set up properly. So I decided not to take one or two and educate 10 or 11. I went back on that particular night, 4 nights later, and I took 3. Then I went back a week later, took a double. Then I went back 2 weeks later, or a week after the next incident, took a friend with me, and we got a quad. So now I'm up to, 8 or 9 of those coyotes dead in a 2-week period. My point with all of that is if the scenario is not right, if you hunt on a regular basis, if the scenario is not right, the best thing to do is let that coyote roll on. Because in my opinion, 1 coyote is not worth educating 5 more. My goal in predator management is to kill, if there's 5 coyotes there, kill all 5. Now, if you're out fun hunting and you're just out wanting to shoot coyotes and you don't care if you educated the other 4, take the coyote, be happy with it, you had fun. At the end of the day, that's what matters. If you're doing this from a little bit different standpoint of a business, or you're doing this for landowners that need the coyotes gone, you do not want educated coyotes for any reason. And if you have exclusive hunting rights to the property, the only person that can educate those coyotes is you. So you have the ability to control those mistakes. Now, moving to phase 2, how do you hunt educated coyotes? This partially depends on if you know what educated them to the aversion. So if you have, and this is always a bad situation, but if you have 2 different people hunting the same land, I'm not a proponent of that at all. I don't hunt anywhere that somebody else hunts. If the landowner says, hey, I'm letting Bob hunt my land as well, I back out. And I say, Bob can have it. It's not going to work. It screws both people. If you know, so hunting educated coyotes, if you know, if you're continuing to hunt that land with Bob, and you know Bob only runs distress or only runs vocals, if you have some idea of what educated those coyotes to an aversion or to a negative event, you have a little bit of advantage knowing how to work around that. But if not, what you're really going to have to do is take some time to observe their behavior and use some of your time for observation instead of killing. And that is for you to know if you think there's 6, 8 coyotes in this parcel and you can get 1 out and you can work him on some sounds and watch his behavior as you're running through sounds, that's going to tell you how to get those other 6 or 7 coyotes that are in there. Now that may sound funny, but you've probably heard some of my other videos where I will go to property that, for instance, has fox. I don't really mess with fox unless the property owner wants them out of there. But what fox give me the opportunity to do is learn, how far does my sound go out in these conditions? I've got a 10-mile-an-hour headwind. How loud do I have to play my call for them to notice that sound? I want to know exactly where my sound is. I want to know exactly where my odor is. Use times when you're thermal hunting and you have a good scanner or using your rifle. Use some of that time to build that database instead of, hey, I've got 1 animal out there, I can take it, I'm killing it. Well, you're going to end up with 1. If you use that to build that knowledge database of here's how far my sound's going, here's what they notice, here's what they like, here's what they didn't like, and you run through sounds, you're going to develop a site-specific database of what is good for that area. Now, what most people will do is, this sound is working, the coyote is moving towards me. Stay with it. If I'm hunting 1 coyote or I'm not in an educated area, generally, I always say, if you're playing a sound that's working, don't change the sound. You may play with the level a little bit, but don't change the sound. This is the opposite here, where if I have a sound that's working, all right, I know that they do not have an aversion to that sound. But I need 4, 6 sounds to use on a stand. So I'm going to start running through other types of sounds. If the coyote's coming into a howl, I'm not going to continue to howl. I'm going to play I may play rabbit distress. And if they don't have an aversion to that, flip to a bird distress, something faster, higher pitch. Okay, they don't have an aversion to that, great. Now I go to a fight sound. Boom, coyote starts moving away. Now I know all fight sounds off the table. Now go back, run through the gamut. I already know what works. So as long as that coyote isn't just checking out, tail tucked, hauling away, I've got time to run through those sounds. Now all of a sudden I go to a pup distress. And the coyote turns his head and starts moving back towards me. Now I've just ran through 5 sounds and I have the library of knowing these 3 will work and these 2 won't. That's what you want to build that database around, trying to learn. And generally, what is good for that one coyote, what he has heard and worked with, you're going to have to apply to the other coyotes in the area. We can't single out coyote number 4 and he got shot at over bird distress. So that's just not practical. What we're going to have to do is do some generalization and say, this sound for these coyotes in this parcel at this time, this is what works. And it's that simple. So if we're hunting educated coyotes, we want to kind of build that database, but the ultimate goal is don't educate them in the first place. I would love to hear your guys' comments, what you're looking for. This video is a result of somebody sending a message in and saying, I would like some information specifically on educated coyotes and how they get the way they are. So we always look for those comments, put them to work. The only way to find out what's working is go out, try it, do it, and have fun with it. Thanks, guys.